So welcome to Tzu-Chi Center. Thank you so much for joining us in this wonderful afternoon. And we are going to have a wonderful program today. So we're going to start out with a panel discussion. And then after that, around from 4 to 4:15, we're going to walk to the Chan space for tea and meditation. And then we will come back here for network, light dessert. I don't know what they prepare, but nice sushi, something. And then we have music and closing. The key goal here is really that, we're going to be here all together to share our wisdom with each other on what are the virtues that's coming from our tradition and how can we collaborate with each other to create wonderful projects together. But before I talk further, I want to introduce you Katie. She's the director of a Tzu-Chi Center. And she can say a few words for us.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, panelists, distinguished guests, and most of all, our audience here today. Welcome. And I don't have much to say, but thank you for coming, and hope you have time to spend with us, not only today, this afternoon, this evening. Also, come often and visit us. I often call myself the housekeeper of this building, and I want to welcome everyone to come in, have a good time, and enjoy, and have a peace of mind for a few minutes in this busy world of New York City. So once again, thank you very much for coming, and I'm sure you'll see a wonderful program ahead of you.
Great, thank you, Katie. And before we start, let me just introduce you some of our wonderful panel speakers and where they're going to share their wonderful wisdom with us. So first one is Rosalini Ubina. She's the youth representative of the Baha'is of the U.S. to the UN. And then we have reference Dr. Chloe Breyer. She's the executive director of the Interfaith Center of New York. And then we have reference Dorian Park, who's the representative of Won Buddhism, and she's also the president of the Buddhist Council of New York. And finally, my wonderful colleague, Dr. Tom Petriano. He's the professor of religious study as well as the chair of the religious department of St. Joseph University. So before we start, let's just give them wonderful welcome. So, I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Peter Lin. I'm one of the long-term volunteer of Tzu-Chi Foundation. I started as a volunteer in this organization since, I guess, teenager. So I've been here for quite a long time. This is like my second home for me. And part of the reason I'm part of the Tzu-Chi Foundation because I think life can be difficult at times, and I'm sure my students would believe that because I make their life difficult sometimes. And when life becomes difficult, we need values and directions. And I think religious values or our spiritual practice often provide that direction in life. But at the same time, though, it's because our religious values are so important, sometimes we have conflict with each other. So the purpose of today's meeting is to talk about interfaith, right? How can different faith and religious ideas or religious groups can collaborate with each other, work with each other to have something meaningful. So before we move on further, if you turn around, there are like 3 boards, post-it board behind you see. So please, I guess when during the break, if you have time, please fill out information on those 3 boards. And the idea is that when we listen to our panel speaker, even though I'm asking questions towards our panel speakers, I want you to think about those questions are also for you. And so I want us to sort of brainstorm together as a team, as a group, on what can we do together to bring harmony to each other. So one of my first questions for panel speaker and all of us is that what are the important values and virtues from your religious practice that you think is worthwhile to share with everyone else? So, and also, how do you apply that in your daily life? So, I'm going to go by volunteers. Who want to go first? Awesome. Okay.
So the question is, from our own religious tradition, what are the values? Yeah. So my tradition is Christian, Catholic specifically, and I think one of the most important values, the virtues that attracts me and keeps me grounded and rooted in my faith tradition, while I have a tremendous respect for all other faith traditions, is the idea of the inherent dignity of every human person. We talk about the image of God, that each and every person, right, is created in the image of God. And for me, that is a central value that keeps me grounded, that comes out of our tradition.
Great. Excellent.
I can piggyback on that.
Sure.
My personal tradition is Won Buddhism, relatively young and new tradition from South Korea. Maybe from my Buddhist tradition, the most kind of fundamental, the essential teaching that I would like to understand and kind of live upon is what we call that you use the words of the divine, or was it?
Divine image?
Yeah, divine image. Maybe Buddhist interpretation will be the kind of Buddha nature, enlightened nature, that we all have that. So a lot of times our practice and teaching is to understand who we really are, what we really are. And then it starts from on your outside that we all look different. We all have different experience, different family backgrounds. We're all different, but at the same time, when we go deeper, we can see this enlightened nature within all of us, that we are all interrelated, interconnected, so that the Buddhist idea of helping others is ultimately helping ourselves. So for me, in a way, to serve myself, I like to serve others, because I see, that's where I get the nutrition from others. Mm-hmm. So that kind of whole idea of interconnectedness is something every day I need to remind myself for that.
Great. So divine image, Buddha nature.
Thank you for this opportunity. I am, in addition to being the director at the Interfaith Center of New York, which is a secular organization that reaches out to faith traditions all over the city, I am an Episcopal priest, so that's another flavor of Christianity. And from that, my own reason for doing this work comes from part of the, really the teachings of Jesus, in particular the story of the Good Samaritan, which is really about the story of being a neighbor. What does it take to be a neighbor? Because oftentimes, the question that comes behind that story is, who is my neighbor? That's what prompts the story of the Good Samaritan. So the kind of reading between the lines, the answer is your neighbor is not necessarily someone who looks like you, not somebody who necessarily worships like you, not someone of the same economic status as you, but your neighbor is the person who needs you. And it's often, and that kind of can, I think, that you can relate to that across faith traditions as well as in interfaith work.
Mm-hmm. So pay attention to who your neighbors or who need you. Okay, great.
One of the beauties of going last is that I get to piggyback on everybody. But so I'm listening to all of this and I'm like, yes, I agree. Yes, I agree. Yes, I agree. And I come from the Baha'i faith tradition. And I think for this conversation, I'll think about the oneness of humanity, but not necessarily uniformity. I think when we think about oneness, we're conditioned to think, we want to have everyone look the same. But there's this Baha'i writing that talks about humanity being a diverse garden, rich of different flowers and flora. And I think about that as humanity because not only are we all from different faith backgrounds, we're all different flowers, but we all contribute something different, right? So we're made in the image and likeness of God, which God is really hard to describe, right? We can all come up with thousands of words to describe God and the divine, right? And this essence in all of us. But to think how all of us are reflections of God, but we're all so vastly different. So what contribution can you make in your own divine uniqueness to contribute to humanity?
Great, great. So I guess there's something in common is all that, I guess all religious tradition talk about there's something like, I guess we all have that potential. We can all be greater, and that potential is shared by all of us, even though we may all look very different. Mm-hmm. And which, I guess a related question I would have then is, what is your experience when you encounter someone that's different than you or from your religious tradition? What quality or values do you appreciate from people that's from a different spiritual practice? I'm saying that, for example, because I think part of the reason why Tzu-Chi Foundation started, our teacher, Master Jin, she's a Buddhist nun, but what inspired her to help others were like the Catholic nuns. So she picked up something from other tradition and incorporate into her own practice. So just curious about your personal experiences with other spiritual practice, spiritual traditions.
Can I go first?
Of course.
This is my favorite question. I'm Baha'i, but I grew up in Roman Catholic Church, and I studied Sufism in college, and one of my good friends is Buddhist. So having these conversations with my friends, I realized we're all saying the same thing, right? You're talking from a different book, you're using different language, but it's all the same. So I really love Interfaith, and in the Baha'i tradition, one of the principal, number one foundational values is the oneness of God, right? This oneness of the divine. And we can all describe God in different ways. We have this idea of progressive revelation, which is the idea that God sends manifestations or prophets to humanity over time to help us get things better. So the way that I interpret that is God sent Moses, and Moses did some stuff, but as humanity, we couldn't figure it out. So then God sent Jesus, and he did some stuff, and we couldn't figure it out. And I'm skipping, right? There's like Zoroaster and Buddha. I'm skipping. I'm just speaking to the ones I really, really know. But, you know, and I think we can acknowledge that these divine entities that have come from different countries and over time have progressively revealed to us these different natures. Like Buddha talks about, from what I know, this kind of serenity, this calmness, this servitude, this humility. And then the next manifestation is like, okay, so we were doing this kind of serene and kind of meditative pose, but then how can we have that for our neighbor, right? And then the next manifestation comes, okay, so we're doing it for myself and I'm doing it for my neighbor, but how can I do it for my neighborhood? And then my community, and then my country. There's a lot of details I'm skipping over, but essentially I'm able to see the God in people, I'm able to see the divine in people, and I love talking to anyone of different faiths because I can find a commonality, we can find this moment of truth, and then we can build on this truth and whatever faith tradition you come from. Sorry, I'm rambling, it's my favorite subject.
Great answer.
I think, you know, I spent some time in college studying in Nepal, India, and Tibet, and had an exposure to Tibetan Buddhism, and remember thinking, as you know, as clear as sort of the 10 commandments were. For example, you shall not envy, you shall not covet, you shall, you know, love your neighbor as yourself. There wasn't too much in the fine print about how you actually do that. Like, it's one thing to say, love your neighbor as yourself, but you might not like your neighbor. And how do you kind of develop the compassion in a very sort of practiced way that sometimes I feel like in you know, some Buddhist teachings, you are given some very detailed instructions about how to cultivate that kind of feeling, which doesn't sometimes happen on its own. So that's been, I found it a gift just in my own life. You're next.
Well, actually, to answer to that question, sometimes I wonder it's really coming from my own personality, or that it's been through my more than 2 decades of Buddhist practice that I'm in, you know, who I am right now. I just like diversity. You know, I say that if everyone is like Buddhist, that'll be so boring. Seriously, I don't really like that. I really like the kind of diversity. Simply the idea is that my personal approach, even before my kind of spiritual seeking or religious kind of seeking, is that I like to see the reality, meaning I don't expect everybody to be the same, to have the same thoughts and same things, because that's the reality, and I need to deal with it. So simply that I see that we all in this globe from different places and with different cultures and different ideas. My Buddhist teaching is helping us to understand what's the essence of all these differences. And through this practice of understanding, to have deeper understanding of the core of who we are, again, with the different expressions of it. Simply, our founding teacher was saying that it's like we all have different languages. You know, like someone that I grew up in Korea, English is not my mother language, but still I see, yes, we all have different languages, but when we talk about, let's say, one of the favorite things is watermelon. You may have different words for that, but what if we just share that, eating together and enjoy this, right? But still, the reality is that some people may not like that, right? Some people may like something else. And also, for us, a lot of spiritual cultivation is about facing or understanding or experiencing what's uncomfortable with us. And then through my own personal experience, for the first 20 years, I didn't like seaweed soup. But now I'm so into this seaweed soup. So now I see for my own personal thing that there are different kind of experience in my life. Maybe there are things that I don't understand. Maybe there are things that I don't like about other cultures or other things. But still, I try to keep in mind that it's a journey. Maybe today, but maybe tomorrow, I don't know what's going to happen. So keeping that kind of space, understanding of kind of experiencing the moment, and yet that I still see this, it's not the end of my own life here. Always try to keep that possibility of how it will unfold in my life.
So be open-minded, okay?
Okay. I often like to tell my students that every day it's a good idea to try and do something that scares you, right? And because that's how we grow. And I think by our nature, our human nature, we tend to gravitate toward people that are like us, that look like us, that talk like us, that think like us. And it's scary to try and meet a person that is different from us. It takes stepping out of a comfort zone that I have. And I think for most of us, that's the case. If you're in a room of people and there's all different people there, my first instinct is to gravitate toward people who speak like me or look like me or talk like me. Although I think I've overcome that because, to a large degree, not completely, but to a large degree, because I've discovered that when I step out of my comfort zone to meet someone who's different, I discover fascinating, amazing things, and the biggest discovery is they're not that different, right? But it takes stepping outside of the comfort zone and conversation. Peter, I think if I can use this example of you and I at St. Joseph's, like just talking to each other down in the cafeteria and casual conversation built into a friendship that developed into a minor that happens at St. Joseph's College because we met each other as friends and discovered the likenesses, even though there are differences. Right. Yeah.
So Professor Pretriano and I actually developed a minor in our college. It's called a Mindfulness and Contemplative Living minor, and it's a wonderful interdisciplinary kind of minor where we put religious study, psychology, philosophy, put it together and make it wonderful minor. This is not an advertisement, by the way. I'm just sharing our experiences, interfaith experiences. But I think one thing I want to get more specific then is when we meet people who are different than us, right? I mean, one of the key challenges is that we have to step out our comfort zone. I guess I want to be more specific, right? Like, what does it take? What helps you from your own faith to step out that comfort zone, right? I mean, we all, we all want to do great things, but great things only happen outside of your comfort zone. So what do you do to step out, to reach out to people really different than you are? Who want to start? Yeah, great.
For me, it comes down to this very key question that we have in Buddhist tradition. We say, coming out of our comfort zone. Question of what am I then? Mm-hmm. For me to have that answer, I need to have a certain idea of this is who I am. This is my kind of boundary. I need to come out of this. Mm-hmm. But then a lot of times Buddhist teaching is that actually what am I, has no fixed idea. So now I see, yeah, I'm a bit little shy, which I'm not really, but still, let's say. Maybe I don't want to go to certain type of people who is very talkative and loud out there. But then like, yes, they're loud, I'm not. But then is that really who I am? I can be loud at times. So coming back to my own understanding or kind of that contemplation of what am I? If I don't really have that fixed box, much easier for me to go out. Because again, there is not such the differences and that kind of boundaries for me. It's not that easy, of course, but that's kind of my question. When I see others who seem different from who I am, then like, okay, what am I?
Excellent question. Great answer.
That was really beautiful, by the way. I'm still thinking about your answer. I think for me, when I meet someone that's different than I really think to myself, like, this is a human. God created this person, and there might be things about this person that I really don't like you said, because we're people and we have personalities, and sometimes they clash. But there has to be an ounce of something good in that person, and I need to speak to that. I like Savita's nodding at me because as I was making this answer, I was thinking about you. We had a meditation retreat that was hosted by the Brahma Kumaris for some women a couple months back, and we were all so different, and we came from so different backgrounds, and we discussed who we were as people, but we weren't discussing this box that you mentioned. We were more like, look at this person, look at the light in that person, have them see your light, and then just exercising that back and forth to each other. I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it. And it just really proved like we are all the same. We all have that light in the center of it, and that's not a Baha'i teaching. That's a BK general somewhere, so yeah.
Like seeing the wisdom of light in all of us. Yeah, great.
I'm thinking particularly, a little bit to a certain extent in Christianity, but also in Judaism, the emphasis on welcoming the stranger and how important the stranger, the idea that you do this because, out of the land of Egypt, you were strangers when you came here, thus you do need to welcome the stranger and say, there's just this echo over and over again in parts of the Hebrew Bible about the importance of the stranger and welcoming the stranger. That then's picked up, in the New Testament. So that for me is a good kind of rationale for going out of my comfort zone.
So part of the teaching, is to learn to welcome the strangers. Great.
I think for me, while agreeing with all of those observations, I would say respect for the other person. That when I encounter someone who's different, and again, it's human nature. It's certainly my human nature. It's so easy to categorize a person by the way they look or the way they speak, and to think you know them, but to really try to encounter the other as person, right, and to respect the other, and part of that respect means the willingness to recognize that I can learn something from that person. Humility, I guess that's the other word I want. Respect and humility, right? That there's something I can learn from you and you and you that you can teach me. I think it's really important to bring that frame of mind into the meeting with the other. When in the world religions course that I teach, like one of the first things I remind students of is that what attitude do we bring to the study of other religions? And most importantly, it's respect, it's humility, it's a willingness to learn, to recognize I don't have all the answers.
Yeah, great answer. Of course, we're talking about religious identities here, but I think this is applicable to all different identities. I mean, how do you talk to someone who's from a different political value? How do you talk to someone who's from a different ethnicity? I mean, like, New York City is such a place that you're going to meet so many people who are so different from you, and how do we step out our comfort zone and meet them? And so from our panel speaker, I hear some of the very good lessons. One is to learn to sort of reevaluate your sense of self, right? Our identity sort of serves as a trap that put us in this small box. But, also the teaching of welcoming strangers and the idea of seeing how we all have that wisdom or the similarity of the wisdom of light, for example, within all of us. And finally, humility and respect are all great lessons that we can use, not just for different religious groups, but even for anyone who are different than us. So I think continue this discussion then. Can you share with us your experience working with people who are different than you, either a project that you are currently working on or a project you envision that we can all work on sometime in the future? Anyone? Maybe since you're running the Interfaith Center of New York, I assume you have some wonderful project you can share with us.
Yeah, we've a lot of wonderful projects, but the one that really leaps to mind around this is how do we, as diverse faith traditions, really support the New Yorkers, who are coming in, a large number and coming from places of great trial and having huge challenges along the journey, and also when they come here. So what is it that there are lots of ways that we can work together as houses of worship or communities of faith on the ground, but right now there's a huge opportunity. And I just think of the way, we had, there are some mosques in the Bronx that are hosting a huge number of people from Senegal or Mauritania because the language and the religion is the same. And they don't have big kitchens, they're really lacking in everything. And our friends, the Latter-day Saints, have a huge storehouse of dry goods that, come from the plains of Utah, as far as I can tell. Anyway, they have a huge amount of food, and they really want to make a difference and want to be able to share. But the question is, how do you get, large amounts of rice and, into a digestible form to a mosque that doesn't even have a kitchen? So actually then, you learn about the Temple of Enlightenment, for example, in the Bronx that was able to step forward, and they have a huge kitchen. So they were able to, cook this food and deliver it to their neighbors. So I think there are a lot of opportunities like that, because between us, we have so much more to offer than we do, just individually as faith communities ourselves.
So you're able to bring different religious groups work together to welcome these new New Yorkers.
Yeah.
Excellent.
For me, I will say two things. One is that I'm also serving as a president, but Buddhist Council of New York. Here in New York City, we have the Buddhist traditions from all over the world. It's also, for me, it's a great opportunity to learn from other Buddhist sisters and brothers. So we do have a community of the Buddhist groups here that we have some programs throughout the year. Mainly for the open program will be that we have the Meditate NYC. Usually in the fall, we invite teachers from different Buddhist traditions. It's open, free program for the old New York people to learn meditation and then Dharma. And also one other thing is that I'm doing with a lot of IC familiar faces here that as a religious NGOs at the UN, we do have the program together. And as you see here, this program is part of this World Interfaith Harmony Week. It's the first week of February. So from the Committee of Religious NGOs at the UN, we will also have a program next week, February 8th, at the Tzu-Chi Center, the Chapel of the Tzu-Chi Center for the United Nations, just across from the UN. It's 12:30 noon. If you ever walk by, you can kind of come in to celebrate this oneness, this celebration of who we are all different. At the same time, we are all sharing the humanity together. So yeah, with Reverend Chloe, that through her organizations, and we all have so many other places and organizations together here to working together. So probably that's something that I'm blessed to be part of this community, to serve the greater the humanity here.
Thank you. I don't think there's a single religion that I've been aware of, and it's confirmed just by what all of you just said, that doesn't emphasize the value of service.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that service of the neighbor is central and paramount to our religious traditions. And I just find that so interesting, because it's so easy to observe differences, but when you take the view from 20,000 feet above, you know, you see common themes, and certainly one of them is service and compassion for others, for all. And what I found is that in serving others, it's so important to meet the other person as a unique person, and to meet them not as the object of my service or the object of my compassion or charity, but just another person who I try to meet as friend. I've been thinking a lot about friendship and trying to lately, because I think that's what's missing, you know, in our culture, amidst all the differences and tribalism that divides our culture, that when we try to meet someone as a person and as a friend, we discover commonalities between us.
I love that word, friendship. It's been also in my mind a lot too. And I think especially in this spirit, in this realm of service that we do, and we're all participating in different kinds of events, when you make friends in that service, they're really good friends. You know, like you have great friends regularly, and I love my best friend, but she doesn't come with me to the soup kitchen. But the ones that I meet there are like, you're working together selflessly towards something. You're both giving it, you know, service is not hard, not easy. Because I'm thinking about the programs you guys are doing, and I'm like, that's really good and organized. But sometimes I'm not very organized, so I like to do things hyper local. And that's kind of the theme for young people nowadays. So right now, my service is I like to go to the elderly center in my neighborhood, because my landlord, her mom's there and she's 90, and there's a bunch of other old Puerto Rican people that just want someone to play with. So I literally go there for 2 hours and play dominoes and have them give me unsolicited advice about my dating life or other things. But it makes them happy, you know? And I think, because sometimes you think about service, and yes, we need to organize to feed people that are coming to the city, to house them and give them human rights. Yes, we need to create programs on a local, national, community level to increase meditation and increase mindfulness, and you know, our institutions are also serving questionable, you know, outside religion. But sometimes for young people, and especially in a world that we're so hectic in New York City and there's so much going on, if you just look at your day as like this microcosm of service, like what can I do in this small day to make someone's life meaningfully better, right? And I think once you do that, you kind of exercise the muscle of service, and it's natural to you. And then you'll find other people that also are doing that, and then you have a little group of folks that are doing something, and then it flourishes into some great big project, because I think we need to be comfortable in that things don't always look finalized, things don't look perfect. You know, we're doing volunteer work, like things are gonna go amok all the time, right? But just being comfortable in that and just living in this service, I think that's what I would do.
I think all spiritual traditions have great ideas, great virtues, but virtues are not meant to be talked about, right? It's meant to be actualized. So there's always the sort of the step from ideas to action. And I think just like what Tom said, all spiritual traditions focus on service more or less. I think given that we have all the young people sitting here right now, one thing as an educator, of course, myself, is also how can we encourage the young generations to devote to service? Doesn't matter what spiritual or belief ideas they have. So what are sort of the creative way have you come up, or your experiences, in your experience, have you come up to encourage young people to do more service in general? Yeah. Well,
I think providing opportunities, right? So I think I see one of my tasks, and both of us, Peter, we've talked about this,
sure,
is to provide opportunities for students to step out of their comfort zone, right? And it's scary, to do things that are different, forms of service that are different, and to be transformed by that experience. Mm-hmm. So for me, and we've talked about this, one of the experiences of service that I have found to be very transformative for students has been for a number of years taking students to Nicaragua, right? And of course, for students from our culture, our society, especially Long Island, to go to a third world Latin American country, one of the poorest countries, was something very scary, right? But we did it in the context of a course, so preparing them for what they were going to experience. And amazingly, this had a very profound and transformative effect on the students. The people they met there, we haven't gone in a few years because of the political situation there, but we first went maybe 12 years ago, and I know students who have graduated and still have maintained friendships with young people there. There's that friendship theme again, right? And they were transformed by their willingness to step out of their comfort zone, do something very different, and encounter people who are different, and find themselves really falling in love with the people in the country.
Yeah, the Nicaragua project is a wonderful project. Like what you say earlier, one way to help young people to get involved is provide opportunities. Right. Good. Any experience working with young people, encouraging young people to?
I would say, in a similar sense, of course, giving the opportunity is a critical part. But I would put it this way. When you first asked this question, I thought like, oh, I want to hear what you have to say, but what you want to get involved in this type of global kind of work for the humanity. For me, sometimes I feel like, I think I'm still youngish. I think we needed more opportunity or the space to try. Meaning that sometimes when I have teen groups and the kids in my place, in my temple, sometimes I give them like a kind of boundary, and sometimes I let them try and fail, so that they can learn. Because sometimes I think that maybe when we say something like this young new generation, they don't know anything about the whole life. Sometimes because we as a grown up, we don't give the enough chance for them to experience, go through all these things. Of course, maybe I would like to have a kind of final line, kind of to protect them, again, to be more patient, so that we all go through the ups and downs. I personally think that's the real lessons that we learn from our own experience. So whatever you have the idea, you have the project, I want first encourage them to do so, even though I'll have this tendency to kind of correct them here and there, but still that's my part. I have to be patient to let younger people to experience and learn and grow.
But providing them the opportunity to try something new without worrying too much. Yeah, I personally, the reason why I got into Buddhism is because I get to run Buddhist camp when I was a high school kid, and we did so many stupid things. But that's how we actually got so involved in Buddhism eventually, yeah.
I can just think we did one program for a couple of years that was called Debate in the Neighborhood. And we had these kind of delegations of youth groups from synagogue, Shia temple, a mosque, and then, a Sikh Gurdwara, and then we kind of mixed them up into multi-faith teams, and they just had a blast. Like, they just had a really fun time. So that was as long as it sort of has the potential of being fun, I think that's...
Actually, research show that one of the best way to bring people who are who have different values together is to do fun things together. So like me and my basketball buddies, we could talk about politics, even though we're very different, just because we're all doing fun things together. It's like very weird. When you're doing fun things together, you get to talk about anything. It's very different, yeah.
Yeah, totally on that same note. I was really struck by this art as I walked in, and it was really nice to see that it's from Turkey. And surprisingly, I actually lived in a neighborhood next to this neighborhood for 8 months, and I didn't get a chance to see the school, so I was really bummed about that. But knowing the children that are in the neighborhood and the work that you're doing there, it's really touching. So I'm thinking about my time in Turkey, and I had a flat I got an apartment way too big, but the intention was to have it as serving as a community center, because we would have classes where we have the young kids. We had maybe like 6-year-olds that we just went around the neighborhood, and I'm like, hi, I'm new. I like to teach young kids about values, and I do it also in English, and people loved it. And they would come, and I had my friends doing some Turkish, but I'm thinking about joy, and I'm thinking about family involvement, because I had this apartment, in one room were the toddlers, where we had a volunteer sing songs about love and joy and peace. And then the other room, I'm picturing the apartment in my head, I had the youth, so they were like 10 to 12 years old, and they had some starting material. Living room had the teenagers, and they were having, their moody conversations about life, right? And then the kitchen had the moms, not to gender moms in the kitchen, but I'm a really bad host, and they were like, we do breakfast. So they kind of handled breakfast and snacks. But I'm thinking about how every member of the family was involved, how now I can say, bring your family to my home, and everyone's gonna have something to do, kids, young people. The dads are going on the balcony having cigarettes. I'm like, that's fine. Like, you brought your kids, I'm happy. But it was joyful. Everyone had a purpose and service. The moms, we ended up having like a group called Mom's Breakfast once a week, because they loved getting together and would just talk about their kids, talk about raising children. And so from one child having a lesson, we ended up having 15 kids in this apartment, because we're just like, bring everyone, we'll figure it out, like in this joyous, fun way. And at the end, when all the kids would go home, all of us teachers, volunteers, we would stay and we'll cook, or we'll figure out what's the next adventure of the day. So it became like a whole day's adventure with friends. And you don't think about, I'm doing service, I'm teaching, I'm trying to make the world a better place. It's like Saturday, Lenny's house, there's food, and then we're gonna go and do something fun. When it's part of your life, it doesn't feel like a chore.
Yeah, service. If you make it fun and adventures, that would definitely a great way to bring more people in. Now, based on what you just say, I do want to hear what our audience think and what kind of idea they have. What kind of projects or ideas you think will be great for our community in terms of interfaith? So I just want to see, anyone have some ideas based on what we have been talking about so far? What kind of interfaith project or idea do you have experience with, or would you like to see? So this is what my class looked like. Usually at the beginning, yeah. And that's not going to work that way, because I usually, what I do next is I start to pick people up. So I'm going to start with the people who sit in the front. Father Chris, you.
Yeah, thank you for asking. The first thought I have is moments like yesterday, when I came over and met several people from Chan Space and re-met people from Tzu-Chi. Katie and I think we know each other pretty well. And I remember thinking, gee, I wish everybody could be here to have this conversation. And so what I've been thinking about that since was, given the focus on younger people today with the Interfaith Harmony Week, and given our interest over at All Saints just across the street in bringing more young people in, even as young people are coming in on their own, through no effort of ours except maybe prayer, we're getting more and more young people. How do we do that? How do we bring these folks together from different faith traditions? I don't have a good answer to that yet, but we have the resources. We have the physical resources. Tzu-Chi can do something. We can do something. So that's as far as I've gotten. But I want to put it out there and begin to hear ideas. I even said it to my wife. And this coming Sunday, I'm going to mention this to the young folks and say, boy, I had a neat experience last week. I wonder if you have any thoughts about how to do this. One time I asked that question broadly and was told very, very compassionately but firmly, don't tokenize us, right? Don't say you want us young people to come just because you got a lot of old people and you don't want the church to shrivel. It has to be more organic than that. It has to be look what we have to offer and look what you're hungry for. Turns out those things work together. And I'm sure, definitely in the Episcopal Church, we, as far as I'm concerned, we love other religions, right? So we know Jesus wasn't Episcopal. We certainly enjoy our way of celebrating, but we would be more than welcoming, I think, to all faiths who wanted to come and have this conversation. So that's a long-winded answer to your question, is how do we make this happen more often?
But one thing you're saying is that you have the resources to support anyone who have the idea and want to join you.
Yes.
And so,
Yes.
and I think that's
Yep.
true for all of us here. Is like, if any young adults, young or youth have some great ideas, we are definitely here to support the ideas. Great.
Yeah,
great,
thank you.
great.
You said that better than I did.
That's why he's the host.
Oh, thank you. All right. Anyone? Oh, great. There's a.
I have a question, been a pressing issue on my mind as of late. We see here in America and maybe in various parts of the world, we're kind of tearing ourselves apart right now. And my question is, what kind of interfaith project can one come up with that helps knit us back together? Sort of a reconciliation for the country and in the world at large. We see a lot of conflict everywhere. How do we bring ourselves together using sort of an interfaith approach? I guess that's what I'm thinking about a lot as of late.
Oh, that's a great question, because the country is very divided and very tribal. How do we bring people together? I think that's a very important question. Yeah, I wonder, anyone else in the audience want to give a shot? Yeah.
Hi, thanks for the panel so far. I'm really enjoying it. I want to pick up on a possibility in terms of where we are in the city's needs and where opportunity might be, right? So with the migrant community incoming, and it's a huge wave of influx, I think there's a lot of needs, right? And so from a service perspective, I think how do faith-based organizations kind of step in and fill that gap? And then also message to other young people who are concerned about this crisis about how they can come in, step up, and serve in their unique skills, right? I think sometimes we see service as like a very rigid form, but I think in hearing everyone speak today, we can think of it as formless, right? Everyone in how you come in has a skill that can be offered to help those who are on this journey of like finding belonging, finding community, finding neighborhoodness, and how we as faith-based organizations can activate that. I think that's a question up to us. And then we simply have to go into the youth communities and ask, what can you do and what are you interested in doing, right? And I think earlier we talked about like stepping out of our comfort zone and what does it take to step out of that comfort zone. And I think for a lot of us, working and engaging with young people is a very scary idea, right? Excuse me, because it's so foreign. And we haven't had to deal with it for such a extended period of time. And so coming into this ecosystem and saying, okay, well, we need to be more curious. We need to be more open about what is the state of the world in this moment, I think can lead us to new discoveries, right? Earlier, I was chatting with your students about how right now Tzu-Chi is doing work related to caring for migrants that are coming in, providing dental and medical services. But I think there's also this gap of medical and mental health services that a lot of these migrants coming in, they face trauma, they face the need for emotional and spiritual care in a way that those who are in the field of like psychology, behavioral therapy, and thinking about like counseling have skills that when put into practice in a safe environment, I think can be of great benefit to those who are really coming to New York and looking for that belonging and wanting to find healing and hope. Yeah.
Great response, great response.
Yeah, okay. It's really that same idea. I think instead of ask them to bring idea to us, is that we come to you, we come to the young people and facilitate and support the idea that you have. We are currently doing a Here on Earth project that is a youth film project, and we go to different schools, and we work with students who are interested in making films, and then help them to kind of reconnect with the nature. So our project is taking students out of the school. How fun is it to go to the river, to go explore, and to just kind of bring them outside and realize that the power of the nature, the healing powers of nature. And I feel like there's so much we can learn from you. I have 2 sons, and I feel like they are always, every time when they come back, I feel like my knowledge and my kind of, they really help me understand what the modern world look like right now with the new technology. Everything is kind of, and that's the scary part, is to go to the young students and then realize, oh my God, they know more than I do. There's so much we need to learn from you. And to kind of bring that energy together, and then we work together towards something fun. It's like making films and connect with the nature. So it's just kind of one of the ideas, but it's so fun with young people. That's my favorite things as a teacher.
That sounds like a fun project to me, myself. I think one way to bring people together is to really have creative project. You need a lot of creativity, you need talents, you need to gather people's talents together. So again, I'm just gonna remind our audience that the board behind you is where you can leave your info, as well as sort of the potential talents that you think you have that can be beneficial to self and others, and that would be excellent. Any other? Oh, yeah.
Hi. Thanks. So growing up, I did a lot of SISV cons and MUNs, where we were able to talk about human rights and what we want to change in the world. And I think it's a great idea to bring that, but universally. Because I was born and raised in Greece, and we had that there. And I tried to do it in other countries in the world. I went to Spain, I went to the Netherlands, I came to the US. So one thing would be to do something, but universally. I want everybody to pick their minds and tell me what they think about this world, how we can make it better, how we can resolve conflict, how we can help migrants, especially nowadays. I raised and fundraised so many funds within my school and within my community to bring to women, migrants, and Greece, food for their kids, or I don't know how to say that properly, hygiene products, because it's a huge thing that women are struggling with, and especially when they don't have a house or a home to live in. So I don't know, I think we should all take any step closer. We have AI, we have Zoom. We can do a big community within online spectrums or areas, and invite everybody to tell us what they think about how we can resolve, take action, raise awareness, just stuff that we can do in a local place, but do it universally.
Great. So if I want to focus a little bit on some of the ideas that presented, one area that might need more attention right now is the new New Yorkers, right? The migrants. Another area could be environmentalism, right? These are two sort of some hot topics that we can think about as all of us as a group. Yeah.
Sure. So thank you for sharing that. I just wanted to respond to the question that kind of you both raised, actually, about when we're looking at, from the global sphere, all of the conflicts that our world is facing. And I feel like we can see the sparks of hope when we see the capacity building and the coming together of communities on smaller levels, because we see that bringing people together across different faiths, so interfaith areas across different backgrounds, we see that this is possible. And I feel like when we're able to build consensus in smaller groups, if we think about the community or the neighborhood, when we're able to build community, to build consensus, to bring about unity in the community and be able to consult with people that have such diverse or maybe opposing views to what we have, then we're able to we're able to see in action how smaller little circles of change can then build and become larger and larger. And I think I'm going to speak on the part of youth. Seeing you all here too, I feel like I'm still a youth. So I feel like everyone really that's involved in this. When we think about youth, I feel like youth have such an acute sense of justice that young people, they have creativity, we have flexibility of mind, we're maybe less attached to the status quo. And young people also, people of all ages really, but I'm just talking about young people because I'm a young person too. But that, you know, when we are able to build the capacity to assess the needs of our community and really read what is it that our neighbors are needing or the people in our area, how can we really serve others, then we can also see in smaller circumstances how we're actually able to bring about actionable change. And that practice of building our capacity to read the needs of our community is something that I think we'll need to build so that we can read the needs of the larger community on a regional and then national and then international level so that we will be able to combat these major conflicts and challenges that are happening. So.
Great, great. I think this, although this is our first time meeting with each other, I don't want this to be sort of the last either. So the idea of this meeting, I think, is sort of a brainstorm session, as if I want our audience to really think about, one, leave down your talents so we can reach out to you again, but also what kind of vision, what kind of projects you wish you could work on with the fellow young people, or any of us, and or what kind of project you're currently working on right now you wish others can collaborate or support you. So I'm just reminding you that although this is our first meeting, put down your idea at the back of the board, and we have another comment, Lawrence.
Yes, thank you. This has been wonderful. I've really enjoyed every part of this. So thank everybody for your participation. I think one way that I do it is when we're planning a new event or planning something that youth are involved in the beginning, in the vision and the planning, because young people like to see young people as part of the process.
Yeah.
And that's obviously very attractive to other young people. And intergenerational, anything that can be done intergenerationally, I think is very important at this point, to bring in the guidance that really the youth are looking for.
Yeah. Yeah, I see myself as young people too, but you know.
Well, I'm older than you, and I'm surprised when people call me sir.
One more question?
Yes.
Okay. Well, Professor Tom Petriano mentioned the dignity and inherent dignity and worth of the human person. And Doyon talked about the Buddha nature is in all. And in a different tradition, since I'm actually an academic in religious studies and in ethics, all the different traditions have some version of the inherent worth of the human person. And so we're talking about bridging differences, but we actually agree on certain fundamental teachings. And World Interfaith Harmony Week is actually an observance of the United Nations. And one of the foundation documents of the United Nations is the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. I just happen to have it with me. And it talks about the dignity of the human person as the basis of human rights, and that all human beings are equal in dignity and rights. And that these values, it states it right there in the preamble, that these values transcend different cultures. So I think that, but in teaching and also in academic life, I have found that people are very uninformed about this magnificent, basic, the vast majority of countries in the world have endorsed this. And so that in order to, I think we need to, in workshops and discussions that we have, to say, we have something to stand on that unites us all, and also tells us to make peace and provide for others and fulfill the basic needs for human flourishing, and that's human rights. And I can't conclude without saying, and we had a workshop on this not long ago here, right here at Tzu-Chi, in summer of 2022, the General Assembly of the United Nations recognized that the right to a healthy environment is a basic human right.
Well put. Nice summary. Nice summary. One more? Yeah.
Yeah. So I also think when we're going to work with youth, we just need to make it more known. So even this event, for example, like I would have never known about it if it wasn't for Professor Lin. And people would come. So I think just making more people aware of the events, people would come because people are interested. They just need to know that events are happening.
Great, excellent. And one of the talent we need is definitely social influencer, right? Due to the nature of time, I just want each of our panel to say one last sort of take-home message for our audience. And then after that, we will move on to our next event. So, take-home message?
Take-home message is do something as small as it is, and eventually you'll build to something great.
Great.
I guess there's a saying about being the hands and feet. We are. There's no one else to do this work besides those of us in this room right now.
Excellent.
Okay. Helping others is actually eventually helping ourselves.
Excellent.
My take-home message is a very short poem by the Sufi poet Ibn Arabi.
Oh, nice.
And he says, "O marvel, a garden amidst the flames. My heart has become capable of every form. It is a pasture for gazelles, and a convent for Christian monks, and a temple for idols, and a pilgrim's Kaaba, and the tables of the Torah and the book of the Quran. I follow the religion of love. Whatever way love's camels take, that is my religion and my faith."
Thank you so much. That's a wonderful poem. Wonderful poem. And let's thank our panel speakers.
All right, everybody. How was the food? Highlight of the day. I enjoyed myself. Oh wow, this is a great afternoon. We have a lot of chats, talk, food, meditation, and drinking tea. So we packed everything into a short period of time and forming this wonderful friendships and relationships here. Well, thank you for being here. Today's event is kind of coming towards the end, but we do still have a few things ongoing. And first of all, advertisement time. I mean, sorry to put that way, but just updates of what we have been doing in the community. So I'm going to bring in a few people who will share a little bit of what's going on here. So Dr. Peter Lin.
Advertisement time. So just some of the updates that we want our audience to pay attention to. One, Joanne and I are the producer of Tzu-Chi Center's Cafe 229. It's a public education program. It's a webinar, usually once a month. We have 43 episodes so far. And the purpose of this webinar is to provide education to anyone who's interested in well-being, virtues, and compassion in action. So we have many different well-known speakers that come to our webinar to share their wisdom with us. So for example, tomorrow I'm gonna be filming a webinar on 4-time Olympian judo silver medalist who will talk about his, what did he learn from his training in judo. We also have New York Times bestseller authors talk about mental health, and we also had like Emmy award-winning musician talk about music and mindfulness. So all 43 episodes are all on our Tzu-Chi website. Cafe 229 Cafe stand for Compassion in Action, Freedom, and Enlightenment. So stay tuned. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Lin. I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Joanne, and I'm a commissioner and volunteer here as well. I'm a musician too. Thank you. And Steve, who's coming here, he's our Tzu-Chi UN rep. I wish I got the formal title of that.
That's my title.
And he's, oh yeah, okay, I'm right. So he's gonna update us.
Oh, lovely. Thank you so much. Hi everyone. So quick updates on my side. I think I've really been enjoying this conversation. It's so lovely to be in community with everyone. And so over the coming next couple of months, I think we just want to share that Tzu-Chi is committed and continuing to build community through these different workshops, panels, and dialogues. And we hope that you continue to come back to be with us in dialogue and conversation. I think you'll notice that our events are structured in a way that it's not just like people sharing ideas with you and the event closes, right? But it's about that interaction, it's about building community and to really share each other's presence with one another. And so with that in mind, in March, there will be the Commission on the Status of Women, which is a UN high-level conference that's taking place reviewing the status of gender equality as it intersects this year with poverty alleviation and people's ability to step away from hunger. Right? And so with that in mind, we're bringing over 17 representatives from around the world, from Tzu-Chi's community, to come to New York to share stories, best practices, and experiences. And they also want to hear from you, right? They want to hear your lived experiences around what it's been like living in communities where maybe we're struggling with gender equality, or we've been intentionally designing our communities to be gender equal and progressive, right? And so with all that in mind, from March 11th to the 22nd, we're going to be releasing a slate of events and opportunities for you guys to come back to the center, be in community with us as well. And then if you're working on gender equality or on anything related to interfaith engagement and want to partner with us for anything in March, we're more than happy to welcome that. And then moving forward, we align a lot of our activity and programming around the UN, and so there will be various different UN conferences coming up, but I won't carry on too long. I'll just say, for now, look forward to our events in March, and we're so grateful to have you guys with us today. Thanks.
Thank you, Steve. All right, so as we were meditating at the Lingzhou Mountain next door, we have Lawrence Singer here, who is a UN rep of Global Family for Love and Peace over 20 years, and he also want to update with us on what's going on there. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. It's really an honor to be here and to be part of this. And thank you, Tzu-Chi, for the opportunity to work together. The Poetry Slam for Peace is in its 8th year. It's if you know Poetry Slam, it's poets speaking in diverse voices, but really in unison. And it brings sort of authenticity, grassroots, diversity, and speaking about the issues of the day. It's intergenerational, intercultural, and it's a very powerful way of expression. And the Poetry Slam for Peace, the Poetry Slam is generally a competition. This is not a competition. And we have a global platform. After 8 years, we built it up to have a global platform. We have over 50 videos, Poetry Slam for Peace videos, a series of posters, unique posters. And we're really reaching out this year to expand. The Poetry Slam for Peace will be on the International Day of Peace, September 21st. So we'll give everyone information about it as it comes forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Lawrence. And we have Teacher Lu here, who's the director for Here on Earth program, and she'll share with us what she does there. Please.
I know everybody want to hear the cello, so I'm going to make it this 5 seconds announcement. I mentioned briefly about the Here on Earth project we created 3 years ago. Me and Alex is trying to work with young people and bring the this magical tool of filmmaking to schools, to high school, to college students, and address the issue of environmental awareness, and then trying to connect young people with the nature. So if you're interested in filmmaking, and if you know your school want to host some environmental programs, please reach out to us. And I have the QR code, you can just scan it and get right onto our website, created beautifully by our artistic director, Alexis. And thank you again for being here. We look forward to work with all of you in a very near future. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, here comes to the highlight of today's event. Now it's a musical time. I would like to introduce our cellist, who is Lee Duvello, right? Okay, and he is a senior student at High School of Math, Science, and Engineering, and also was pre-college in the pre-college program of Manus. And also, he does sports a lot. So just, you know, we want to cut down the talk time and listen to more of his music. And he's gonna tell us why he picked today's song, and it's very special. Welcome. Thank you.
Yes. I'm going to be playing a piece called Seven by a composer named Andrea Casarubios. She wrote this piece about the pandemic and about the feelings of fear and uncertainty that came with that for so many of us. And it's meaningful to me because I think, you know, we all experienced that. There's a lot of parts of this piece that are sort of like fearful or upset, but the ending is supposed to resemble church bells ringing 7 times to mark 7 o'clock p.m. That's why the song is called Seven. And it's to commemorate the 7 o'clock cheer, which if you were in the city at the time of the pandemic, you remember that. And that was sort of like, at least for me, I think for a lot of people, it was a source of hope and sort of community in a time when nothing seemed certain. So that's why I chose this piece. And yeah, I'm gonna play it now.
What a beautiful piece, executed so wonderfully. What a peaceful and beautiful as well as turbulent at the same time. Very well. What a talented guy we have. Thank you. And we have these parents here supporting us for today. Yeah. Thank you. We're grateful. Thank you. Wonderful, wonderful. So we are coming to the end of our event today, and we do have Father Chris to come, and also Rosalini later to come and share prayers for us. So, and because this is a interfaith harmony, and I think well, it's wonderful to wrap up with prayers from them. Please, Father Chris.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you. I submit to you that this entire event has been a prayer. So that whatever I'm doing is just sort of, I suppose, icing on the cake. It's a wonderful, wonderful evening. I wanted to let those of you who don't speak Chinese know that I learned the Chinese word, yesterday. And that word is ai. And it's the fourth accent, right? Ai, which means love. And it seems to me if we know that word and we can say that word and mean it, and you know, my Italian mama will often say, ay, ay, ay. Maybe she's speaking Chinese. All right. So here's a prayer for you. Let us pray. Living God, in whom is our being, we thank you for creating us and for giving us a special place in your creation. Today, February 2nd, Christians celebrate the Feast of Candlemas, in which we recognize you coming to earth incarnate as the light of the world. We recognize, too, that you offer your light to the whole world, to people of all faiths and to people of no faith. Today, February 2nd, we who are gathered here to celebrate the Interfaith Harmony Week stand in your light as we engage in, and this is from the website, intergenerational conversation, and as we share experiences, knowledge, and values founded on our faith traditions, with an aim toward fostering mutual respect, understanding, and collaboration in a call to action. Bringing together your light and our call to action, we add the following aims. First is love. Jesus announced that he came to redeem us from our fears and failures. He told us to repent, for the kingdom is at hand. Help us, we pray, to understand that repentance means to reorient ourselves away from our fears, despair, and hate, toward the faith, hope, and love that Jesus taught. And with that understanding, may true repentance follow. Help us also to see and to teach that the kingdom of God is for everyone, that God loves everyone without exception. Indeed, Jesus reduced the 613 commandments of the First Testament to 3. Love God, love your neighbor, and love yourself. And writers of the Second Testament simplified this further, claiming that to love one's neighbor is to have all the commandments. We humbly acknowledge this commandment and ask you to help us to obey it. But we confess that there is much work to do in this regard, and that we cannot do it without your help. In you, all of us are one being, yet some of us suffer horribly, while others prosper. Help us to see that this prosperity is a facade if even one of our fellow human beings is suffering. When one part of the body is ill, the whole being is ill. And so today we turn our hearts and minds to those who are displaced, uprooted, and living in environments of uncertainty. We pray for their resilience and recovery, and we pray for you to make us instruments of that recovery. A second aim of our collaboration is peace. Not the false peace born of fear or apathy, but the harmonic peace of shalom, salam, or shanti, a peace of wholeness and completeness in which nothing obscures the goodness, truth, and beauty of creation, a peace in which everyone's mind, body, and spirit are in harmony within each person and with everyone together. A third aim is continued dialogue and action. May today be just a taste of the loving, enlightening, and productive dialogue yet to come. In the words of Parker Palmer, quote, "What does it mean to listen to a voice before it is spoken? It means making space for the other, being aware of the other, paying attention to the other, honoring the other, end quote. Help us, we pray, to listen to each other, to hear each other, and to learn from each other, so that they all may realize the interfaith harmony to which your goodness and love call us. Amen.
Thank you so much, Father Chris. Father Chris is from across the street, the All Saints Church, and we've been collaborating a lot of events like a food pantry and winter coat drive, and so we hope to continue collaborating more and continuously. Thank you. Now we would like to have Miss Eubanus Rossellini to come and send us some prayer, please.
This is a prayer by Abdu'l-Baha, the son of the Prophet, founder of the Baha'i faith. O thou compassionate Lord, thou who art generous and able, we are servants of thine sheltered beneath thy providence. Cast thy glance of favor upon us. Give light to our eyes, hearing to our ears, and understanding and love to our hearts. Render our souls joyous and happy through thy glad tidings. O Lord, point out to us the pathway of thy kingdom, and resuscitate all of us through the breaths of the Holy Spirit. Bestow upon us life everlasting, and confer upon us never-ending honor. Unify mankind and illumine the world of humanity. May we all follow thy pathway, long for thy good pleasure, and seek the mysteries of thy kingdom. O God, unite us and connect our hearts with thy indissoluble bond. Verily, thou art the giver, thou art the kind, and thou art the Almighty.
Thank you, beautiful, thank you. All right, so before I forget, we do have a little gift pack for every guest and panelist who are here today. And also before you leave, please scan this code for our little survey, so we'll be able to run more programs and get to know each other in this community. All right, so now we have a closure from Dr. Liao, who's our deputy director, CEO for Tzu-Chi Foundation, as well as associate professor of NYU Dental School, as well as, so many I have to remember, director of medical strategy and the UN lead. So he will offer us a closure for today's wonderful event. Dr. Liao.
A very good evening, distinguished panelists, honorable guests, friends, brothers and sisters. Welcome again to Tzu-Chi Center. Tzu-Chi Foundation. Tzu means compassion. Chi means relief. It was founded by our Dharma Master Zhen Yan 58 years ago in Taiwan with a humble beginning with 30 housewives. Master Zhen Yan told the housewives, before you go to the market, put 5 cents, Taiwan dollar, which is go to almost like less than a penny, into a bamboo bank. So that was the humble beginning of our Tzu-Chi Foundation. And our 4 missions of Tzu-Chi is charity, medicine, education, and humanistic approach. So it's a great pleasure to co-join Chen Space and GFLP. This is unprecedented. I'm sure it's going to be a lot more to come. And of course, Father Chris across the street from ASC. So sorry we got a little late invitation from you, but definitely we're going to be a lot. From this afternoon at 3 o'clock, we have a very soul-searching discussion of the core values of different faiths, how we can bring harmony together. And then we have the Chan meditation with beautiful tea. And then we have, of course, our Tzu-Chi famous plant-based diet, beautiful cello performances, and the closing prayers from Chris and Eugenus. the 3 precepts of Master Zhen Yan is gratitude. So we are grateful that we come together. We are grateful when we wake up every morning that we are still able to see the sunlight. Because in Buddhism, life is very impermanent, especially at this time of conflict. We hope this interfaith harmony will bring peace and harmony to this world. The second precept is gratitude and respect. We have to respect all sentient beings, including all the animals. That's why in Tzu-Chi we promote vegetarian diet. And also we recycle because, as we say, Mother Earth is only one. And with the 1.5 C centigrade that we're trying to fight with the climate change, Tzu-Chi also promote recycling. In Taiwan, we have over 3,000 recycling stations throughout the entire island. And we have seniors who think that they are no longer able to contribute to society. They come to the recycling station, and then all, as you can see, the clothes I'm wearing is all made from recycled bottles. And this is how Tzu-Chi has been promoting. We have special recycling beds and desks that we, and the blankets that we give when you go to the international relief, which I've been involved for the past 28 years in terms of going to Honduras, El Salvador, 9/11, of course, close to home, Katrina, and of course, Sri Lanka tsunami, and I also was in Mozambique 2 years ago before the, of course, in Jordan to help out the Jordanian Syrians, as we see all the kids that they are being displaced now in because of the Ukraine conflict. Last but not least, this is a master's aphorism. I think I want to close it up, say, the greatest blessing in life is peace, as we all talk today, and the greatest joy in life is love. So hopefully peace and love will bring us all together. We're looking forward to a lot more activities from Tzu-Chi, so just go on to tzuchi.org. Thank you very much, and Amitabha.
Thank you, Dr. Liao, and thank you so much, everyone. As an educator myself, we all take a little bit home in our stomach, in our mind, and in the little piggy bag we'll take home with us. I think I wanted to share a little, because I teach too, and I work with college kids, and I think it's important not to, if you can't do anything now, just take that within you. One day it will blossom. It's like you water, you put the seeds in your soil land here, and once you continue to water with sunshine, with air, it will blossom one day, and it will be in your heart. Oh, I wanted to do something. You know, now I have this ability to offer myself to the society to make this community a better, bigger place.